everyone. At LinkedIn, we work with leaders across the globe to answer one big question. How do you build your careers and businesses in an AI-first world without losing the human in HR? Well, I'm Ruchi Anand, heading LinkedIn Talent Solutions, and you're joining me for LinkedIn Hire Side Chats from hire to hire. And today in this conversation with me is a very special guest from our long-standing partner, TCS. And TCS, to me, is like the highway of talent development, where you don't see the entire system, but everything runs on it. And my very special guest is a friend, a colleague, DP Nambiar. Welcome, DP. He's a Vice President of TCS. He's someone who shares with me not just one, but many common things. Well, DP and I share not just our, I would say, childhood career aspirations, which we'll talk about more soon, but also anxiety as parents of 12th graders. DP, welcome to the show. You are a leader who has a rich experience and a lot of wisdom with almost 3 decades at TCS. You, I think, in my view, live and breathe talent. From India to the US to, I think you've also led talent, I would say, HR across Denver, Amsterdam. I would say to all our listeners that in the true sense, you have a global lens of what the future of work really looks like. So then with that, I once again want to warmly welcome you. And I want to get started by asking you our favorite question. What's that one thing, DP, that's not on your LinkedIn profile?
Oh, wonderful. Okay, so first and foremost, Ruchi, it's wonderful being here. It's wonderful being here with you. And I, of course, would like to thank LinkedIn and all our friends here for providing us this opportunity. Yes, we do have a few things in common, and then you did call them out. And that includes a passion for working with people. And that is definitely what got me to look at HR as a career so many years back. I don't even remember now. But if there was something you were looking for in my LinkedIn profile and you wouldn't find it, and actually my LinkedIn profile is pretty, to the point, so to speak. It's the fact that a lot of friends, colleagues, sort of come and reach out to me to also actually outside of work in a non-official setting when they are dealing with ambiguity. They come in and they talk to me because apparently I do have a knack of sort of wading through ambiguity and pointing people in the right direction. I don't know if I've been able to successfully do it for myself, but looks like it does work for others. So that is definitely something which is not on the LinkedIn profile. The other thing that's not there is that I did have a parallel passion to HR, which was the armed forces. And so I did actually opt for a career there. But then as fate would have it, here I am, an HR professional of 30 years vintage.
Oh, amazing. But you bring in that discipline with you, even if you're not in the armed forces. And I really think what I'm hearing is you have a knack of simplifying the complex, which is wonderful. And to everyone, well, joining the army is something that was probably common for both of us as well. But that's wonderful. DP, so with that, why don't you tell us a little more about your journey at TCS and the rich experience you have? Would love to hear more about that.
Yeah, so I've spent about 3 decades. Actually, this is the year when I finished 3 decades with the company. So,
congrats.
So when I started off, I remember the IT industry was very small in India at that point. It was just sort of starting off. And I did start off doing what is typically called deployment HR kind of work, which is basically a generalist. And I started off at TCS at Bangalore, and then I had the opportunity to move to North America. I also worked in Europe for quite a bit of time, and then of course in India, and across the various functions, be that the classic generalist kind of a role or the staffing roles, whether it's talent acquisition or what we call deployment, resource deployment and management, those roles. Also heading HR for a very complex geography like Europe. And, I always thought that everything was about scale. But it's only when I went to Europe I realized that scale is the easier side of the problem. The complexity is very different. When you're dealing with, multiple different jurisdictions where everything changes every 200 kilometers, the complexity is very different. But what I can tell you is it's been a wonderful 30 years. There have been wonderful days. There have been challenging days, but absolutely no bad days.
So DP, talking about transformations that we were saying, TCS has a bold ambition in front of it. You have a big mandate in front of you. TCS wants to be the world's largest AI-led technology services company. So when you think about this and you hear this mandate as an HR leader, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? What do you think? What are the shifts that are going to be important? Is it skills? Is it deployment? Or is it decision making? Like, where does this begin?
When you're looking at this transformation, yes, skills, decision making, all of that definitely come into play. But I think what is really important here is cultural. It's about people getting used to something which is very different. It's about curiosity. It's about experimentation. It's about the willingness to adapt to change. And I think that is the first level of intervention or enablement that needs to happen. Beyond that, I think at the scale at that which we operate, our endeavor has been to really work with our people, to provide them those opportunities so that everybody in the organization is AI literate, so that all the leaders are AI fluent and every team is AI enabled. And it's still a work in progress. But I'm happy to say that we have about 560,000 of our people who we'll say are quite AI aware. They are very familiar with it. We have about a little over 180,000 who are, full-fledged practitioners, about 6,000 who are experts. We recently did a hackathon because obviously, rather than the traditional methods, gamified learning always works much better. So we recently did a hackathon and we discovered it was the world's largest. We had 281,000 participants from 58 different countries who participated. 38% of them were Gen Z. And a lot of curiosity that came in there. And I think what we have been able to achieve there is to create something like a lot of high energy around it. Give people the idea of what is possible here, and at the same time make them also understand that what we are looking at here is AI as a friend, AI as an enabler, not really as a threat. And I think it's important to sort of strike that balance when we are doing this. So as the people function within the company, I think our focus has been entirely on ensuring that we provide the enablement, the opportunity, and a little bit of nudge.
I want to actually take us to another point you said towards the end about, values. And I've heard you talk a lot about even the TCS way. So let's dive a little deeper into that.
Organizations are not brick and mortar structures. Organizations are people. And I think what gets people to bond with an organization is the people that they deal with, the people that they interface and interact with. We are an organization that very strongly, how do I put it? We think the values are the bedrock of our organization, so to speak. And if I were to sort of look at it purely from a onboarding of talent perspective, and if I looked at our values, I think leading change is one of our key values. And what do we mean by saying leading change? What we mean is we would like to have people in our organization who are willing to push the envelope. We would like to have people who are willing to be challenged, who are willing to challenge, who are willing to innovate, who are willing to constantly look at opportunities, even if those opportunities at the beginning seem to be distant, but to look at them and try and see if if they can work collaboratively with others to get themselves and the organization ahead. Learning and sharing, it's again a very critical value for us. And we did speak about how we are seen as a learning organization. Integrity is another core value, and I think I would very simply put it this way, that outcomes always, but without any compromise. Okay, so and it's a very, very dear value to us, integrity and ethics, both as standalone as TCS, but also because the rich heritage and legacy that flows from the Tata Group.
Yeah.
Respect for individuals is another very critical value for us. Respect for individuals, and of course excellence. And excellence is a way of life. For any organization, I think it's extremely critical and important to have a set of values that people can identify with easily, and people can actually live it, to experience it, to see it all around you.
Yeah.
That is when you really would imbibe it. And I think that's the TCS way that we are looking at.
What we are looking for is clarity, right? And when we look at taking decisions in the midst of a lot of this, and I would like to call it the messy middle, where I think in the transition in that messy middle, where we've not done away with the old way of doing things, we are not completely on the new way of doing things, but we are in this, like as leaders, everyone is in that decision fog. But it's the shared values that really helps us take the decisions, even when we do not have clarity, complete clarity or certainty about which way, but at least values gives us clarity as an organization. And that's that's great to hear, and thanks for walking us through what each of these mean. All right, DP, so now that you've actually shared so much about the TCS way, I want to have my way. I'm actually going to a little bit of surprise. I want to get into a quick thinking fast segment with you, and I have with me a few set of questions, which is as always like the rapid fire. Nothing too scary, I promise. It's going to be...
I am a little worried.
You don't need to be. So let's, if you're ready, let me some questions. All right. So I wanted to know, what's that one metric you always ask for in reviews?
Oh, that's easy. That's say-do ratio. Very easy. Because you commit, do you really deliver? Simple.
I see the excellence value playing out very clearly with that one. What's that one and unexpected joy of being a global HR leader that nobody tells you about?
I think it took me a long time to realize this. I think I realized this primarily during the pandemic. It is how in our roles we actually touch lives. And I have to tell you, it was extremely fulfilling. We had the TCS actually did the largest non-governmental vaccination drive done in this country during the pandemic, where we took the initiative and we organized vaccination camps for all our people, their family members, and also for the larger Tata Group. And it was an extremely fulfilling, I would say probably among the most fulfilling things that I ever did in my career. But I think that just is an example of how one can actually touch a lot of lives. I think that is a part which usually goes unsaid. But I think as a professional in this field, the people professional, HR professional, what have you, that is something which I think really does touch the heart, so to speak.
Yeah, and I know that the work that TCS did was very far-reaching to the broader community as well. That's great. Thank you. What's the interview question that you will ban forever?
Probably, where do you want to be in 5 years? Because I think the world is moving too fast. So I think it probably no longer is relevant. It's more about knowing where do you want to be tomorrow or today.
Absolutely.
So yes, that's the one.
So that means that instead you'll ask more around what's the here and now and what's your mindset.
Yes.
Okay. One HR or TA myth that you'd love to bust.
Cultural fit in an organization means you hire people who are just like you. That's not what it means.
Yeah.
Cultural fit in an organization, it goes back to what we spoke about earlier, is about whether those people, to the extent you can sort of discern in an interview, whether those people have the shared values, whether their values are in sync with what your organization's values are. It's not about hiring people who are just like you.
Yeah.
And that is something which I think a lot of people who are hiring tend to fall into that trap. And that's something which we need to be very careful about.
Yeah, absolutely. Not have the like me bias.
Yes.
As well as make sure you hire for cognitive diversity instead of like me. Okay. And what's your favorite way to spot future leaders early, given that the way you invest and grow people within the organization?
While some leaders are born, most are made. But I think you can usually spot leadership traits fairly early on. It's about when you start seeing people, even people very early in their careers, volunteering to take responsibility, people willing to take the trouble of helping their colleagues. If the colleague is sort of struggling, trying to help their colleagues. There are multiple such traits that you'll end up seeing. And I think usually, and I think by and large, my experiences, you do tend to be, it's on the dot. When you find people displaying those traits, they do tend to then go on to becoming good leaders.
Amazing. Yeah. My manager once told me that peer advocacy is the most important aspect that you can bring in. So when your peers vouch for you, clearly if they are doing what you've just said, if they're displaying all of this, it makes a huge difference. One last question. What's your go-to de-stress ritual? Is it coffee? Is it long walks, chocolates, songs, shows?
Well, I would say maybe reading combined with listening to Kishore Kumar.
Wow.
And chicken biryani.
Oh.
And then if I can do all that with the family, then even better.
Awesome. That was great, DP. I think you did really good with the rapid fire.
Thank you.
One last as we close. This is not rapid fire, but I want to call it like masterclass in a minute. So my question to you is that as we close, and for every TA leader, recruiter that's listening, and they're taking notes as they listen to us, what are the 3 tips that you want to give recruiters so they can stay ahead and stay in the driver's seat with AI?
I think first and foremost, upskill and multi-skill. Because the recruiter of the future is going to be recruiter, but also part analyst, also part strategist. So it's important from that perspective. The second is use AI like a teammate, as an enabler. Be very clear where you want to deploy AI and where you want to use it. The third is continue to ensure that you lead with ethics and transparency. I mean, particularly with reference to the fact that you could have AI bias. So ensure that you safeguard against that. Those are 3 things that come to my mind at this point.
Amazing. Thank you so much. This has indeed been such a joy having this conversation with you, as always. And thank you for sharing your wisdom, sharing your experience, and just giving us so much to ponder on, food for thought as well.
Thank you very much, Ruchi and LinkedIn, for the opportunity. It was wonderful catching up, and thank you very much again.
Thank you. And to all our listeners and viewers, thank you so much. This was, as you can see, such an amazing segment, learning, listening about values, the focus on mindset, the importance of staying curious, as well as the importance to always keep learning. And what TP just said, how do you keep skilling yourself and stay ahead? All I would say is that it's all about our mindset. That's our multiplier. And with that, I'm Ruchi, and I'd like to sign off and see you next time at another episode soon.